All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a wonderful presentation ahead. Um, uh, my name is Dr. Dennis Johnson. I am the Senior Vice President of Programs and Partnerships here at the application, also commonly known as HBCU 20 by 20. And I have the wonderful Joshua Johnson out here with us. Josh?
Yes, hello, Dr. Johnson, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of this ever important conversation as we talk about how we're engaging our nation's future talent. My name is Joshua Johnson. I am the CEO of Pardon Me. I am also a national workforce leader and a recognized national apprenticeship expert. I am the former state director of apprenticeship in the state of Wisconsin, where I also led the National Association of State and Territorial Apprenticeship Directors as their vice president elect. In my previous role, which is what brought the engagement here with Apprenticeship Universe, I was a director with Jobs for the Future for our Center of Excellence in Registered Apprenticeship. And prior to all of that, I started my career as a registered apprentice. I am a journey worker laborer, and I am currently a member of the Laborers Local 113 back in my hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So my experience that I bring to the table really is around apprenticeship, and Dr. Johnson, I always say this. I know apprenticeship from the rooter to the tutor, right? And there's no aspect of apprenticeship that I have not been a part of, from being an apprentice, from building apprenticeship programs, to being over the regulatory agency for a state for apprenticeships, for representing national, state, and territorial apprenticeship directors, and then also leading efforts to continue to modernize the apprenticeship system at a national level. So I'm really excited to have this conversation today, and I'm really excited to share these results. These results were so impressive for the work that we did at JFF through the cooperative agreement in partnership with you all at the application to really expose students at HBCUs and minority serving institutions to the opportunities that exist in apprenticeship, which is one thing that is truly missing in this country, is helping individuals from underrepresented communities see the access points of apprenticeship. So really excited.
Thank you, Josh. And I've been with HBCU 20 by 20, aka the application, for about 8 years now. So I've been with the organization, I can say, since it's founded. And my whole goal is to not only build partnerships, but maintain them as well as lead our research institute, the VYP Research Institute. However, we're talking about our Apprenticeship Universe program, in which we got to team up with Josh and those at JFF for, I would say, an amazing exclusive partnership through the application. Now, within the application itself, you all, we have many programs. We have HBCU 20 by 20, which is like the foundation of its organization. Basically, it's a program, or should I say a lens, that see things through the HBCU lens, in which we're specifically serving those who either currently attend or recently graduated from an HBCU. But in addition to that, we have free college applications, in which we offer students to a host of other institutions. We have fellowships, mock interviews, our research institute. We have a professor circle, which is composed of a bunch of resources that professors can use to better engage students, as well as get some of our partners involved. And we have our Apprenticeship Universe program, which I will be talking about today. So, with the Apprenticeship Universe program, it's basically a dual enrollment initiative designed to get college students thinking about apprenticeships, and not just thinking, but also applying and completing them as well. Our goal is to make these students more competitive, to make them more resourceful, and most importantly, to let them know that apprenticeships that are out there, they could better suit their major and also their interests. So within the specific Apprenticeship Universe program, we had basically 540 students and recent graduates registered to attend virtual professional development workshops. Now, what that means is that we had over 540 students attend work webinars specifically on apprenticeships. So either they attended, well, not either, they had to attend both the orientation as well as the individual workshops that were hosted by employers. So if you were in, let's say, a nursing student, you could have joined the workshop on, let's say, registered apprenticeships in healthcare that were presented by HCAP. After these students participated, they were surveyed, and we compared those surveys after to the surveys they took before they actually completed the the apprenticeship. The goal was to basically compare the two. A lot of students when they first completed the survey said that they have not heard about apprenticeships. Now that they completed the Apprenticeship Universe program, they had. Some of them did not know exactly where to look when it came to apprenticeship opportunity or what apprenticeships were overall. And after this program was done, they knew where to look and they knew exactly what apprenticeships were. Basically, this is the step-by-step process when it came to students signing up. So first, we pushed applications basically everywhere. We contacted all universities, regardless of those who were, regardless of if they were HBCU or not. We wanted students and recent graduates, meaning those who had just graduated within a year. And they would have had to show that they basically completed an enrollment form. So once they accepted, they had to complete an enrollment form. And within this enrollment form, we just wanted to make sure that they would be fully engaged and that they would complete all the workshops in addition to the surveys. Once the students were done, we will offer basically, I would say, a stipend. In addition to that survey, we also collected a video testimonial as well. In addition to making sure the students were able to participate in our mock interview program. So we just didn't want to give them the information as well as to get their thoughts, but we also wanted to put them in front of someone who can basically teach them about how to interview within the industry in which they were interested in. All right. So these are our demographics. So out of those who applied, we had 1,291 applicants. We had 764 students who officially accepted the program, and we had 566 students who basically completed the program. Now, what that means is that we had 1,200 people who basically completed the application. We had 764 people who said, yes, though I completed the application, I officially accept this opportunity. And we have 566 people who actually completed the workshops, completed the surveys, video testimonial, and so on. When we break that data down, what we see is that over half of those who signed up and completed the program were women. I would say 788 as the data shows. Majority of those in the program as well were current students. Again, recent graduates being defined as those who graduated within a year. We had over 461 students, international students participating. That meaning those from the Virgin Islands and the other countries as well, which was great. And over 134 institutions were represented, which was something that we had no idea, we never thought we would get that many. That many schools from Los Angeles, New Mexico, California, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, you name it, were there. And again, this was our goal. A majority of the students who participated identified as Black, followed by 135 being Asian, and so on. Again, that was very, very unique. Um, and I would say just majority of them had no idea, what apprenticeships were, and also had never participated in an actual apprenticeship. And again, going into this, we never expected to see this data. Josh, any input?
Yeah, I do actually. I want to spend a second on this slide because this slide I think really lays the foundation for the impact that was created by the Apprenticeship Universe, putting forth this opportunity to engage students. One of the things that we think about when people hear the word apprenticeship, they never think about engaging college students around the apprenticeship conversation. Many people think that apprenticeship is an alternative to college. They don't realize that it can go hand in hand. What you all have done here with this work, and under the leadership of you, Dr. Johnson, at the application, really is identified where there's some opportunity to continue to engage these underrepresented populations of students, to engage them in the conversation around apprenticeship where they may not have been engaged before. Many times we think about students that are attending college, that they're going to attend college and just magically end up in their career field or magically end up in a job. But one thing that we don't think about is the students who are struggling to make it through college and who may have went to college with this idea that it was going to be all red roses and candy everywhere, and they come to find out that it's a lot harder than what they expected. So they think about getting into the workforce, and when they're thinking about getting into the workforce, they really don't know how to access the workforce in a way that could be productive. Yes, many of them have had jobs, working at restaurants or grocery stores or some job that's paying barely minimum wage. But what you all were able to do and the conversations that we have with these students really surround around the fact of, hey, while you're in college, you can actually engage in your career field through an apprenticeship program. And I think what this data shows, most importantly, it shows that the 566 who successfully completed the program, I'd like to come back and see that data in a couple of years and see how many of those actually entered into an apprenticeship program. I don't know if that's possible, but to be able to see how many of those actually engaged in a program. But what you see here is the 1,291 applications. That lets people know that these college students are very interested in understanding what apprenticeship was. Now, sure, many of them may have come to the table thinking it was internship because they're thinking internship. That's typically what they hear, but understanding that those 1,200 students really wanted to find out what apprenticeship was. And when we see this data breakdown, the number one thing that I look at the bottom is, out of those 1,291 students, 871 had no experience with apprenticeships. Then 75% of them didn't even know what an apprenticeship was. Right? They had no clue what an apprenticeship was. So when we're educating and getting the word out about what apprenticeship looks like, the Apprenticeship Universe was really able to kind of be it was basically a multiplier in these conversations, getting onto 134 campuses virtually to have these conversations.
Thank you for that, Josh. And for the record, the way we are defining apprenticeships is, basically defined by the DOL. These are programs that are recognized by the state and the federal government. So these are not like apprenticeships in which, you may have an employer up and say, "Hey, we no longer have an internship; we have an apprenticeship now." Like, no, these are programs in which require a certain amount of hours. These are programs that are, inspected, have to be approved as well. The programs, in addition to the speakers who we had speak to the students, were all recognized by the federal government. In fact, they all came off the DOL's website, or were they were connected to us by JFF. So again, these were registered apprenticeships. These were not just your average apprenticeships that somebody else could have created. No, they were opportunities in which students could have walked away with a journey workers card. Just want to put
And
that out.
actually, before you move on to the next slide, one of the things I think I want to be able to ground this conversation in with some apprenticeship expertise, but more importantly, with a message to the potential HBCUs who are listening, the minority serving institutions. As you look at this data and understand, and even for those institutions that are represented here, look at this data and understand that there's a yearning for understanding what apprenticeship is, but more importantly, understanding how to engage in an apprenticeship program. Now, as a university, as a college or university, I want you to think about one thing and one thing only. What are you doing to economically develop the area around your campus? What I mean by that is you have students who are transplants there from other states, from other counties, from other cities. How are you utilizing those students to help create economic development in the city that your campus is located in? Now, I want to take it one step further, and I want you to think about how can you utilize the apprenticeship programs that are in your area, that are surrounding your area, in your count. We'll just say county, in the county that your college or university is located in. How can you tap into those registered apprenticeship employers to further conversations about hiring your students? Now, on the back end of that, I also want you to think about many of those employers may already have a relationship with your college or university, but they don't have a relationship that's focused on registered apprenticeship. They may have a registration focused on internship, or they may have a connection focused on job training programs. But many of them would never have thought to engage you as a college or university in the registered apprenticeship conversation. So utilizing that and thinking differently and thinking about how can you use this data to inform potential initiatives at your university or college around economic development for the area, for the county or city that your college or university sits in.
Thank you, thank you. All right. So out of over 130 some universities, these were the ones that were represented the most. Now just I just want to, let people know that The application was originally HBCU 20 by 20. Our focus was HBCU students. Our original goal was to place 20,000 HBCU students into jobs and internships by year 2020. Our database has over 25,000 HBCU students and recent graduates in. However, we have transitioned to the application in which we serve all students at all universities regardless of race and things like that. However, when we launched this program, we did what any other organization would do. We reached out to our database first and we went from there. With that being said, we can see that our database is heavily reflected in the data. When we look at the top 10 universities that are there, they're HBCUs, with Grambling State coming in as number one. What's interesting about that data is that Grambling State is not the number one institution or HBCU, I would say, represented within our database. However, when looking at this data, it's letting us know that students at Grambling State, at Jackson, at Fisk, and so on are heavily interested in HBCUs overall. This also highlights the importance of HBCUs having apprenticeship opportunities.
And can I add on here, Dr. Johnson? Do you mind? Um, now that you've highlighted this, as we're talking about the top 10 universities of engagement, our HBCUs, I also want to challenge the HBCUs that are joining this or listening to this conversation. I want to challenge you to think about it like this. I've heard, and let me create a foundation first. I did not attend college. I did not attend an HBCU. I I joined an apprenticeship program shortly after being incarcerated, and I allowed that to build a career into what it's been now. Um, but one thing I've realized in conversations with HBCU leadership, HBCU presidents, provosts, HBCU students, and parents of HBCU students that are in my family. One thing I realized is many times HBCUs they achieve or they are put on the highest level of respect, rightfully so. And individuals look at HBCUs as being prestigious. And if my son or daughter attends an HBCU, it's to receive a prestigious education. So one of the challenges that we faced, and Dr. Johnson and I have this conversation before, one of the challenges that we faced is around the fact that helping convince parents that an apprenticeship is still just as prestigious as an education at the HBCU. More importantly, if the related instruction is part of the apprenticeship program at the HBCU, then the student, the apprentice, is receiving their related instruction, the schooling through the HBCU. So understanding that that word apprenticeship is no less prestigious than the acronym HBCU. And understanding that, yes, it's not to push construction, it's not to push manufacturing, it's not to push anything. It's to push, it's to present an opportunity for the students to engage in career, in working in their career prior to graduating from college. So thinking about it in a way that removes this idea that apprenticeships are once again, I'll repeat it, that apprenticeships are the alternative, right? We have to get rid of that notion. And then as HBCUs or other minority serving institutions, we have to get rid of this notion that being a part of an apprenticeship is less than compared to attending a prestigious HBCU.
Thank you, Josh. And again, you all, when you look at the history of apprenticeships, a lot of them derive from HBCUs. A lot of HBCUs were created with the goal of pipelining, basically black and brown students into the trades. And now, fast forward, we have students get degrees, but we also want them to, again, take interest of the trades or apprenticeships that are out there now. Because though you may have those soft skills, and those, those I'll say white collar opportunities, there is a lot of opportunities that pay good money, specifically within the I would say the industry of apprenticeships. All right. All right, so next slide. When we started to look at the majors and the breakdown, what we saw that majority of the students who participated in this specific opportunity came from computer science, basically IT. And when we first, pushed the Apprenticeship Universe program, that was our first thing because we knew that majority of the students in our database were basically computer science, data science, software engineering students, and so on. So we kind of knew that this was, there was a good chance that they will be represented heavily, but we didn't know this much, considering that, when we first started this program, we could not name any opportunities. I would say computer science opportunities within the apprenticeship industry. So it was great to have companies come on and tell students like, hey, there are registered apprenticeships in cybersecurity, there are registered apprenticeships in data science, and so on. Because again, these students are hungry and they were looking for an intern. They were looking for opportunities outside of the traditional context, so I would say lens. This also shows us that, again, it's very, very, very diverse. So we do have some STEM opportunities, with STEM represented, but we also have those who are not STEM, who are in this representation. So thank you. All right, so survey results. So over 466 surveys were collected. What we saw was that majority of the students really, really, really enjoy this opportunity. As in, if we took all of them together, majority of them said, hey, they had an excellent experience. They were grateful to learn about registered apprenticeships. They didn't know exactly what they were. So just looking at the data, again, it speaks for itself. Like this is what we were looking for when it came to really, really, really telling the story of why apprenticeships were really important. All right. Again, strong feedback when it came to the students. All right, next is apprenticeship awareness and interest. So this is something we really, really want to focus on, because when we first started this program, we were like, hey, would students really understand what an apprenticeship is? So during the orientation of this program, we asked students how many of you all were familiar with an apprenticeship. Everybody basically raised their hand. However, with that being said, was that when we started to define what an apprenticeship actually was, hands started to go down because students realized that they had participated in an internship and it wasn't an apprenticeship. However, they labeled that internship as an apprenticeship, and that wasn't the case. So when we started mentioning things like, hey, is it recognized by the state and federal government? Did you have to do a certain amount of hours? Were you able to walk away with this specific opportunity? In other words, a journey workers card. Can you go to another state and your experience, is recognized through some type of license or certification? And when we started saying that, hands started dropping and let us know that, hey, 45% of the students who participated was basically, I'm not familiar. So yeah, this is key data. In addition to that, it sparked a major shift when it came to those who are interested into basically going after opportunities. So we had over 88% of the students who participated who said, yes, now that I know what apprenticeships are, I want to participate in an apprenticeship. And again, that's why we do what we do, because we want those students to be interested. We want them to go after these opportunities. But more importantly, we want these students to know that these type of opportunities exist. So once they complete the program, we will send them opportunities specifically within apprenticeship, specifically within their industry. So again, this data is key because before we did this program, 55% of the people who participated did not know what these apprenticeships were, you know? So now that they have completed this, we taken those same numbers, and now over 88.4% of those who participated want to know more about apprenticeships. They want to apply and they want to complete these programs. Again, this is why we do what we do. But now we're going to talk about employer. We're going to talk about the employer participation as well as their feedback. When it came to getting employers, it was difficult. And we're going to talk about that later on. But thankful with the help of Josh, Gary, Maji, the whole I would say GFF team specifically out of the DIA Center, like we were able to get some really, really cool folks to come and speak to the students, but not only cool, but those who represented a variety of industries. One of our first speakers was Apprenti. Now, Apprenti is a nationally recognized company, I would say organization, who's also recognized by the DOL as having a formal registered apprenticeship. The students who got to experience this enjoyed it, and they enjoyed it for all our partners. The cool thing about Apprenti was that it was a heavy, they had a bunch of opportunities leaning towards tech, but it also was very diverse, as in they had roles for, everybody. And I think the cool thing is that we had students who, let's say, were interested in companies like Visa and never really knew how to get in exactly. But through this Apprenticeship Universe program, hearing from a apprentice, knowing that the apprenticeships are out there and that they don't have to, do all these additional other internships to get in, and that this was like, it was a lit path. And it's like, okay, let me apply for some of these opportunities at Apprenti. Um, in addition to that, we had the city of Charlotte come and talk. So again, we went from computer science to political science, I would say. And within the city of Charlotte, we had Sherry who came on, who basically talked about all the opportunities within the city. So it wasn't necessarily just your traditional government roles, but you could be working in streets and sanitation. You could be working in, let's say, the those who do like engineering and so on. In addition to working, in your traditional political opportunities. So again, this was great. So again, thinking about those who are outside of STEM but looking to get an in or looking for an opportunity after graduating in the I would say the Carolina as a whole area. And for those who don't know this, the Carolinas have more HBCUs than anybody else. So this was great for those students to hear, like, wow, there are government opportunities for me, and there are registered apprenticeship government opportunities, which means I couldn't complete this opportunity with the city of Charlotte, and I may go back home and I may live in, let's say, Baton Rouge or Los Angeles, and those same skills can transfer and be recognized by that city or state, whatever opportunity that I decide to get. Um, we also had healthcare was represented. We had a strong demographic when it came to students interested in just opportunities overall. Now, I think there are about three schools, HBCUs, or maybe four now. I know Morgan State just got their accreditation that have medical schools. However, there are students at all HBCUs that are interested in healthcare opportunities. With HCAP, they was like, okay, let me show you about all the apprenticeships, specifically those in the medical industry that we offer. And this was great because these apprenticeships were all over the country. And I think that's the cool thing about HCAP. What about you, Josh?
No, I was holding like I've been holding my breath since the first one
Okay.
sent to Prenti. So go ahead and go through them all, and then I want to provide. I definitely want to provide some feedback on the employers because these are all top-notch employers and organizations that the Apprenticeship Universe was ready to engage with around apprenticeship. So I've been holding my breath. So I'll let you finish first, and then I'll provide a little commentary.
Definitely, you all. So we went from computer science to political science. Now we're in healthcare. And our next partner, Safo Partners, came on, who JFF connected us to. Before we actually started Apprenticeship Universe, I didn't know who Safo was, but when they came, it was great because it was like, okay, here's another political science, not political science, but computer science company who was specifically, offering students like those data science opportunities, those cybersecurity opportunities, those opportunities that what students may look at as now as high paying roles, but only accessible through a 4-year degree. So again, definitely shout out to them. And as you all see, as I scroll, there's a percentage for what we have the survey ratings of how students felt for each specific partner. VJ Computer Academy, another registered apprenticeship sponsor who was able to talk to students within the computer science industry. The cool thing about VJ is that out of everyone who spoke, they were the smallest, I would say, RA sponsor. But the cool thing about being small, at a company like that is that you get, I would say, there's more intimacy when it comes to making sure that, hey, I know that student's name. There's also, you can specifically put aside a certain amount of resources for like transportation and things like that to make sure that student can get to their apprenticeship or need a computer to complete whatever software engineering or computer science opportunities that are available and that need to be done virtually. So we definitely love this. That's
Yeah, so just a little commentary. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to those employers who did agree when we put the call out to reach out and say, hey, to partner with Dr. Johnson and Apprenticeship Universe to come in and share about their program and share about the work they're doing with the students. I always like to think about How can we be multipliers? As I said that in a previous comment I made. So multiplier not only about information about apprenticeship, but now these employers also had 1,200 students who heard some aspect or some combination of 1,200 students who heard some aspect of their program. I have a obviously, I have a fondness for each one of these employers on this list as I've engaged with them. And I've seen the growth, the continued growth by a few of these employers throughout the time. Um, One thing that I want to tip my hats off to you all, Dr. Johnson, is the diversity in employers that you brought in. I remember that was a conversation that we had was when we identified, when you did your initial data collection to identify what industries are potentially out there for individuals to engage in an apprenticeship. We you were able to identify employers who matched all those industries. And if you think about going back to the slide that showed the breakdown of industries, I believe every one of these employers, some way, shape, or form, represents a piece of those industries that the students were looking in. And I think that's a really very salient point that I want to make right here, which is so many times people think apprenticeship is just construction and manufacturing. And while, yes, it is, and now construction manufacturing represents the large majority of active apprentice contracts in the country, you also have to realize that there are emerging sectors that have come on board in the past 5 to 10 years, which are really surrounding around healthcare, IT, cybersecurity, agriculture. Um, uh, you know, Thinking about these emerging sectors, transportation, that are coming into the conversation, which now are also being represented on college campuses across the country. And I think those are the things, as we're having this conversation, I really want to make sure that any college or university leadership that is listening to this and wanting to identify where an opportunity is, these five employers all represent in some way, shape, or form those emerging sectors that already are housed within the colleges and universities. How can we make that direct connection? How can we tie that connection better, but then add the caveat of registered apprenticeship to it, utilizing these employers as potential pilots to engage and have those conversations? So, I love it. I love seeing City of Charlotte on here. Obviously, I live in North Carolina. I live in Gastonia, which is basically a suburb of Charlotte. So I love the great work they're doing. Apprenti, I've known Apprenti for over 10 years, like of the work that they've done, like watch them kind of grow into this tremendously supportive organization of tapping into talent, underrepresented talent. HCAP as well as SAFO, knowing the work that they've done and the work that we've partnered with them on, and then VJ Academy as well. So I wanted to make sure that I put a exclamation mark on the point of these five employers who stepped up to the plate to come in and have this conversation, understanding how important that conversation is.
And definitely thank you, and shout out to them, you all, because when we originally started this, though the application has over 600 corporate employers in which we've worked with throughout our 8 years of existence, when it came to saying, "Hey, we're looking for those with a registered apprenticeship," everybody went mute. It was really hard to find, honestly. Without Joshua's help, I don't think we would have been able to pull this off within the time frame in which we did. And fortunately, not only did we get employers, but we got employers who did great presentations. We got employers that were able to really sell these registered apprenticeship opportunities to students and have the data to back it up. Like, again, students were surveyed at the end, and over 90% of them was like, "Wow, I enjoyed this. Like, I'm interested in this opportunity now. Like, can I learn more about that employer now?" And that was great. And again, it was very diverse. We had those from tech, healthcare, and the political science industry represented, which is, one of the primary goals when we first started this. Because we had such a diverse group of students, we wanted to have a diverse group of employer partners speaking.
And can I say as well on the back end of that, like when you're talking about engaging employers, employers are also and apprenticeship programs are also trying to identify where their next qualified talent pipeline is going to come from. They want to find the untapped talent because they want to create that direct pipeline into their organization. Many times employers don't even think about tapping into HBCUs or other minority serving institutions to fill their open apprenticeship roles or to even recruit for those roles. So, right, it's like the same thing, the same conversation we had a few slides back where, the students didn't even know about opportunities with apprenticeship or how to engage apprenticeship. That goes also for employers. Many employers don't understand that tapping into HBCUs and minority serving institutions or just colleges and universities in general, they don't understand what it looks like to tap into those entities to talk about registered apprenticeship. So we have to change that. We have to change that narrative. We have to help the employers understand that's an untapped talent pool for their apprenticeship programs. But then we also have to help students understand as well that it's an opportunity to engage in their career prior to graduating college. So it's just this narrative. We have to continue to change the narrative. We have to continue to get information out there so that everyone involved in this conversation is informed.
Definitely. All right, so this is, whew, when it came to the challenges in recruitment, um, there's a lot of conversations going on about apprenticeships right now. And when I mean a lot, there's a lot. There's a lot on the state level, a lot on the federal level. However, there's a lot of people talking, but there's not a lot of opportunities. Which is interesting considering every time you look up, there's like, hey, we're short this amount of people, thousands within certain industries, specifically when it comes to those industries related to tradesmanship or just apprenticeships overall. So with that being said, too many leads, not enough active opportunities. We will reach out to people and they'd be like, hey, but I don't have any active apprenticeships or registered apprenticeships programs running at this time, or I don't have any opportunities to even send the students. Another thing that came across is that we contacted tens of thousands of people, especially those who were on the apprenticeship.gov site. Which I don't want to say majority, but a good percentage of them, their contact information was outdated. We would email them and would bounce back. We would call people, the phone would be out of order. We would go to their websites, we would Google them, and we couldn't find any information, or the business had been shut down or closed, or which was a lot, there were never any active registered apprenticeships available, or any active registered apprenticeship programs available. So again, these things made outreach very difficult. For the employers that we had, and I talked about that 600, majority of them did not know what a registered apprenticeship was. And then once we told them, or for those who actually knew what it was, they were not willing to amend their policies and rebuild programs around federal and state protocols. Again, this costs money. And they were like, okay, we don't have that right now. Last but not least is that, well, not last but not least, but one of our last ones is that our students came from all around the country, some from all around the world. And what we've noticed was that we may have had students, let's say in Florida, but they originally lived in Los Angeles. And though they may have been going to school in Florida, they would love for an opportunity, in LA. However, there was nothing remote or hybrid in which they can engage in, and vice versa. So it's like, if we're willing to get students in, we're gonna have to, basically update these apprenticeships, especially the ones that are in tech. It's like, let's get to more remote opportunities that's out there. And let's get to more hybrid apprenticeships that also come with some type of transportation stipend or transportation reimbursement. And last but not least was that there was low employer interest in international students. This was a wake up call because we see it on our end just from our relationships with the private sector. Like, hey, can you hire these students? But we also saw this on the end when it came to apprenticeships. There's like, hey, we don't offer visa sponsorship, and we're not even willing to basically have that conversation right now. Like, it just was, we're not there yet. So this was definitely a wake up call.
As we look at these employer recruitment challenges, one of the things that I realize is, and that you realize, Dr. Johnson, in having these conversations, really, these are the challenges many employers face just in general when it comes to identifying where talent is hidden, where talent is at, that they can recruit for. I think the other part of it is, as you talked about, some of the employers that are connected to the application, they weren't interested in creating registered apprenticeship programs, and many times we have to remove the myth as well that creating an apprenticeship program is this arduous work. Many times I've heard that throughout my career, that it's just so tough to build a program. That it's so cumbersome to do the paperwork. So we have to continue to get the narrative out there that it's not. That's not what it is. That it really is easy. It's connecting with your state apprenticeship office and having a conversation with them, whether you're, wherever you, whatever state you're in, having a conversation with whoever leads that apprenticeship, the apprenticeship programming in that state. But identifying, I loved how you highlighted, really made this a slide that was really impactful, to talk about those employers and the recruitment challenges that they're facing, because this is real across the board, not just for students that are connected to college or universities, but this is just across the board.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So again, this would not have been possible without the support of JFF, with I would say Josh, Scary, and Maji them honestly being the anchor when it came to just knowledge around apprenticeships, when it came to the intersection of HBCUs, minority serving institutions, and apprenticeships, when it came to really getting a thorough, detailed, I would say overview of what exactly a registered apprenticeship is. JFF was key. So I just want to say, just outside of the funding, really walking us through that, that this situation, this program, this partnership, and really explaining the value of apprenticeships and where they're headed in the future. It was definitely key to that. So they helped us build out this strategy. They reviewed everything we put out, from the flyers to the research, making sure that we stayed in line when it came to DOL standards. They helped out when it came to employer recruitment. They offered technical assistance, as well as provided their feedback on how we can, better, let's say, push material to be able to secure employer partners, or be able to tell the story of apprenticeships better, with the goal of being recruitment, for the students. So definitely shout out to you, Josh, and your team. Yeah.
No, thank you so much, and I'll take a little credit, but really, Gary Courtney and Margie Tharp were tremendously supportive in really driving this work, and I want to create a little level set here, real quick, if we have a second, like, because I want to make sure that you all, Dr. Johnson, also um, get kudos for your engagement with JFF at the time. We think about this about 3 years ago when I first met you and Nicole, and we really had conversations about what that can look like. And it took some time to cultivate and turn it into what the apprenticeship universe was able to become. But I will tell you, it's the funding that came through DOL and that cooperative agreement, which gave us the framework that then created an opportunity that then created results. Um, and what I mean by that is, without that cooperative agreement, the conversation that we can have about how could we provide funding and support to engage students at colleges, universities, we wouldn't have had the ability to have 1,291 individuals apply to learn about apprenticeship, nor will we have the over 500 who completed the Apprenticeship Universe programming. So when we think about what that investment really did, that investment allowed over 1,000 students to learn some way, shape, or form about apprenticeship, which now also, yes, there's still thousands more, but it put the message out there loud and clear that apprenticeship is an opportunity for students at colleges and universities. So, shout out to you all as well, Dr. Johnson, and the great work you did. Us through, during my time at JFF, and leading the Center of Excellence project, like it was just it was incumbent on me to identify those organizations where we could create impact. And I feel like we've definitely created impact with this project, and under the leadership of Gary Courtney, and the support as well of Maji Tharp.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So again, I just want to, we're towards the end, and I just want to end with this. There's two parts of this when it came to just our outcomes. The first is there was a strong interest from international students. We know everyone comes here for a good education, specifically those higher, due to route of higher education. However, could that be a conversation in the future in which those are coming here for a good apprenticeship, a good registered apprenticeship. Those coming here to fill a skills gap in which we keep hearing about. Next is, within the apprenticeship universe overall, we had to adjust. We had to adjust when it came to transportation. Originally, our goal was to visit campuses. We wanted to visit over, I think it was over like 30 colleges and universities per region. Unfortunately, like, because of budget cuts and things like that, tied to transportation, we couldn't. However, what we did was we tried to basically visit them virtually. Next is, students were interested. The participants viewed apprenticeships as a primary career pathway, not just a supplement. In other words, it was like, wow, like this is something key. In other words, if I would have known about this before I started school, I would have went the apprenticeship route. And also now that I know this, let me also do some type of, dual enrollment program, which would allow me to walk away with a registered apprenticeship. Next is majority of the people we had speak to the students were all women. And this was amazing considering that apprenticeship historically has been like male dominated. So again, this is why diversity and things like that are important. And also again, the students over 90, well, students were like, hey, we enjoyed this to the point that when it came to the surveys, over 90% of them said our presenters were great. So again, that's really, really good. Large turnout. Over 400 signups happened after the spring 25 semester ended. What that meant was that when it was time for students to graduate, everybody was looking for an opportunity, and we saw an influx of applications. We saw an influx in people completing the program at the end of the semester. So timing is very, very important. And also, this is the first program in which we ran in which there was no employer branding. So historically, we've always put, a logo or something in the front with an employer related to it. But this is the first program in which we didn't, and we still got over 1,200 students that sign up and apprenticeships. So again, it's a need. It's a need. Um, it's part two of it. The participants submitted resumes even when no direct placement was offered. What that meant is that their students were like, hey, I really want this opportunity. Can you send my resume in? Can you look over my resume to make sure that it's prepared and equipped, or basically good enough for me to get a registered apprenticeship? Them not knowing that, resumes are important, but they're not like the, I would say, it's not like it is in a traditional sector in which you have to, show your resume in order to at least, get an interview. The apprenticeships work completely different. However, they were so interested, they were still pushing their resumes out. And again, this is what we want to see. Um, Next is that was misalignment between participants' availability and employer timelines. As in, our employers were looking for talent, and for those who had opportunities available, that timeline of opportunities kind of conflicted with the student's schedule. Again, students are and usually in school fall and spring with a break over the summer. What does it look like having a registered apprenticeship available in the evenings and full time over the summer? That's what we need to see because right now there was limited availability because of the time conflict. Next is it would have been great. Next time we run this program, let's get some mentorships involved. Let's get those who actually are out in the field practicing to come and do, not only speak to the students, but do some virtual walkthroughs of, hey, this is exactly what this looks like in the field. Record it and send it out to those who are thinking about going into this industry. And next is that, again, we talked about this earlier, students were confused between apprenticeships, internships, and fellowships. Unfortunately, we were able to break that down for them to really have a clear understanding of what each one is and why apprenticeships was so important and so valuable.
Can I just add a little backdrop as well there on the slide as you're talking about the misalignment of the opportunities. I think that has been one of the so there's two conversations that can happen there. One is it's really tough to identify what employers hire apprentices because many times employers don't want to put that information out publicly for the biggest reason is because they hire on cycles. So they'll hire in the spring or in the fall, or they'll hire when they'll hire initial cohort and they'll wait till that cohort completes and then hire another cohort. One of the things that we can do, that we all can do better, is continuing to expose these opportunities, which then will just kind of like over time it just becomes a part of the conversation, which then will allow for it'll make sure that there isn't necessarily a quote unquote misalignment at that time where an employer is kind of like, yeah, we're really not hiring, but really having that continued conversation of exposure, so that now when that employer is in their hiring cycle, or when they are looking for individuals, they're reaching directly out to the students. They're reaching out to the students saying, hey, we're here, send us your information or apply for this. The other part of that really is thinking about these employers. Once again, hats off to these employers for agreeing to join the apprenticeship universe and come on and have the conversation. Really, they came at it from the standpoint that they were looking for an opportunity to expose individuals. And I think that's what you were able to do, is expose those students to this opportunity where they could join. Like you said, they were submitting resumes anyways. They're like, hey, at most college students, they're like, yo, I need a job. I want to make some money. Like, let me get out there. So I think it gave an opportunity for those employers also to build a database of individuals that they can reach out to when the time is right. So it's always, it's always the sticky wickets of like this idea of engaging. How do you properly engage, and how do you expose those programs that don't just recruit like every day? They're not taking an application every day.
Thank you. And what it means is that, overall, apprenticeships, the industry needs to look at what the traditional opportunities are doing. Need to look at the traditional way in which folks are now recruiting. We can't continue to follow the same old protocol. Things need to be hybrid. Things need to be, virtual. Things they have to be able to work around the student schedule. So because there's high interest, college students, you all, those who spent tens of thousands of dollars, giving years of their life, to their institution, are interested in an apprenticeship, are willing to put in the hours, are willing to do the hard work, are willing to develop the skill, in addition to going to school to get these opportunities. So basically the data speaks for itself. There was a clear awareness and understanding of what an apprenticeship was. And what we saw was over 90% of the students who participated said, hey, I'm interested. Um, Basically, this is great. Again, really, really great. Over 122 unique majors were represented across multiple disciplines, from criminal justice to biotechnology, to animation to sociology. This is great. This is again, this is why we do what we do, because apprenticeships exist for all industries. And if they don't, for those industries in which apprenticeships are not available right now, they will be available in the future. And they're going to be available in the future because number one, there's a demand and there's also a shortage depending on what industry it's in. There was strong HBCU participation. So yes, you may be sending your baby to school to get a degree and or to go to law school or so on, but there's also an opportunity for them to walk away with a journey workers card. And not only is there an opportunity, but it's something that they actually want to do. And we can make things like that happen with the support of our partners, for example, JFF. And honestly, we just got to continue to support. We have to continue to meet this demand, and we have to, just basically be partnered with those who are reliable, who have opportunities, who are willing to invest in the students, and who are willing to see diversity. So yeah. All right, so just recommendations. Basically, this was basically all the data, compiled up. What we wanted to see and what we needed to see was reflected overall in these recommendations here. So the three that you see here came from the surveys. It came from our challenges as well. The first one was just we wanted to just improve apprenticeships overall. We wanted engagement to be better. That means that we wanted more partners, employer partners from like as many industries as possible. Reason being is because we have over 100 majors represented, but we had only, I think, 5 or 6 employers represented, or should I say industries. So again, this was really important because we didn't meet the diversity requirement. Everybody who participated could not learn about apprenticeship specifically within their major or hear back from them folks as well. We also wanted the apprenticeships or registered apprenticeship sponsors to just, do more, I would say, engagement and recruitment tactics. These days, you may see a company set up an activation at a school. This may be what apprenticeship sponsors may have to do. So, can you picture walking to your lunchroom and on the side there's a welding activation that's taking place, or there's a cybersecurity hackathon or something that's taking place, with a program that's, offering registered apprenticeships. And remember, with a registered apprenticeship, you're getting paid. This ain't no unpaid internship. You're actually getting paid to not only go to school, but to also learn this specific occupation. And last but not least is that there needs to be a virtual presence. There needs to be a virtual presence. I know historically it's always been in person, but we need to add some virtual opportunities in order to meet the needs of our students these days, especially those college students, because they may have a full day of classes, or they may not have the transportation that allows them to go from school to home to an actual apprenticeship. So again, I just want to put that out there. But yeah, transportation is needed. Engagement needs to be virtual, and there needs to be more opportunities available, and we need those opportunities to be diverse. With that being said, I just want to, say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and yeah.
And so I want to provide, as we kind of wrap up here, I want to provide recommendations as well. It's really important. I want to have the ear of the colleges and universities with this recommendation. We've seen data. The Center for Minority Serving Institution at Rutgers, led by Dr. Mary Beth Gassman, they provided data recently. Prior to it was in June of this year, they provided data that showed in 2021 there were three registered apprenticeship HBCUs that had registered apprenticeship programs. In 2025, when they did the data recap and looked again, they did a survey of the field, or a landscape of the field. They identified 22 HBCUs that had registered apprenticeship programs. What that data shows is that the information that is being shared is being heard, and it's being heard by those HBCUs and understanding the power that apprenticeships offer to them to curate an experience for their students, whether it's during their time while they're, at the school, or whether it's after their time when they graduate and they're able to come back and participate in the related instruction portion of registered apprenticeship. Seeing that information should empower the rest of the HBCUs as well as other minority serving institutions to think, how can we be just the same? How can we do that? This is an area where I encourage each of you to be aligned and to be the same as others. It's going to create opportunities for your students that you could never imagine. So, if that was one of my big recommendations out to HBCUs, minority serving institutions, as well as other colleges and universities, identify where there's an opportunity to partner with the employers that you're already working with to create the ability for your students to engage in registered apprenticeship. And specifically to HBCUs, I want you to think about it in this way, as I talked about in the beginning. I want you to think about, how are you creating economic development for the community that your HBCU resides in? How are you creating it? How are you bringing students in that you never want to leave your community because they're great students, and you have them raise families in those communities? Not only do you have the rich history of them participating, not only did you the rich history of participating in the curriculum at your university, but now they also have the ability to go into the community and to grow a family and put money back into the same community that you are a part of. So, challenge. I'm laying down the challenge to HBCUs. Really think about how to utilize registered apprenticeship in a way that is beneficial to their students, and most importantly, to the economic development strategies within the communities they reside.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Josh. And at the end, to be honest, this would not have been possible without the students, without the recent graduates. And what we did was, we have their video testimonials, we have their surveys, and we just want you to read this. I didn't even know apprenticeships were available for college participants. This changed everything for me. This is what a student said. Hearing from professionals who look like me made me feel seen and inspired. It was helpful, but more live demonstrations or short videos of actual work environments would have made it even better. Please come to campus. We need this kind of opportunity here. I learned so much more than I expected. I didn't realize apprenticeships could lead to long-term careers in tech or healthcare. I hope there are more sessions like this. It felt like someone was finally speaking directly to us. And that's what we're trying to do. Apprenticeship Universe is trying to speak to college students and let them know that there are dual enrollment opportunities that are out there. There are opportunities that are out there that can basically help them get their degree as well as some type of tangible skill that is recognized by the state or federal government through a registered apprenticeship that allows them to, hey, I got my degree in Texas and I'm moving back home to New York. And my degree and my skill is still going to be recognized there because of my journey workers card. So again, you all, thank you for your time. Thank you for hearing us out. Thank you for learning about Apprenticeship Universe. Thank you to Joshua, Maji, Gary, the entire JFF team. This would have not been possible without them. And I would just say until next time. And I hope that we can do this again. And in order to do this, we need sponsorship. So if you're listening to this, let's team up. Let's partner. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. So yeah,
And
let you have the last words, Josh.
my last words, I close this out no matter if it's on a stage in front of 100 people or 1,000 people, whether it's virtual or in person. I always close it out with a quote from my very dear friend, the great Karen Morgan, the former state director of apprenticeship in Wisconsin. There are good ships and wood ships, and ships that sail the sea, but the best ships are apprenticeships, and may they always be. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for the opportunity to continue to engage. Dr. Johnson, thank you all as well for engaging with us to get this very important work done.
All right. Thank you. You all take care and stay safe. Until next time. Bye.
Till next time.